Hello everybody, today we will be exploring things about the I.S.S. Now, you may be thinking something like, the I.S.S. is boring or not interesting, but turns out you're wrong. The I.S.S. is interesting because it's a very unique platform for deep scientific research in a very low gravity environment, a marvel of international collaboration and engineering, and a key stepping stone for future space exploration. So first of all, if we're going to learn about it, we have to learn about its origins. As early as the 1950s, American space pioneer Wernher von Braun already had ideas for large orbiting space stations. He envisioned a wheel-shaped facility slowly rotating to provide artificial gravity to its many occupants. While such an orbital outpost exceeded available technologies for the foreseeable future, shortly after its founding in 1958, NASA began considering more modest space stations. With President John F. Kennedy's ambition of a moon landing as a national goal, plans for space stations took a backseat until after NASA landed there. Now let's learn some fun facts about it. An international partnership of 5 space agencies from 15 countries operates the International Space Station, and it's been continuously occupied since November 2000. An international crew of 7 people live and work while traveling at a speed of 5 miles per second, orbiting Earth around every 90 minutes. Sometimes more are aboard the station during a crew handover. In 24 hours, the space station makes 16 orbits of Earth, traveling through 16 sunrises and sunsets. Peggy Whitson set the U.S. record for spending the most total time living and working in space at 665 days on September 2nd, 2017. The living and working space at the station is larger than a 6-bedroom house and has 6 sleeping quarters, 2 bathrooms, a gym, and a 360-degree view bay window. To mitigate the loss of muscle and bone mass in the human body in microgravity, the astronauts work out at least 2 hours a day. Astronauts and cosmonauts regularly conduct spacewalks for space station construction, maintenance, and upgrades. The solar array wingspan, aka 356 feet or 109 meters, is longer than the world's largest passenger aircraft, aka the Airbus A380, which is 262 feet or 80 meters long. The large modules and other pieces of the station were delivered on 42 assembly flights, 37 on the U.S. space shuttles, and 5 on Russian Proton or Soyuz rockets. The space station is 356 feet or 109 meters end-to-end, 1 yard inside the full length of an American football field, including the end zones. The 55-foot robotic Canadarm2 has 7 different joints and 2 end effectors or hands as used to move entire modules, deploy science experiments, and even transport spacewalking astronauts. 8 spaceships can be connected to the space station at once, like that one. A spacecraft can arrive at the space station as soon as 4 hours after launching from Earth. 4 different cargo spacecraft deliver science, cargo, and supplies. Like that one there, maybe. More than 20 different research payloads can be hosted outside the station at once, including Earth sensing equipment, materials, science payloads, particle physics experiments like the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer O2, and more. The space station travels an equivalent distance to the moon and back in about a day. The water recovery system reduces crew dependence on water delivered by a cargo spacecraft by 65%, from about 1 gallon a day to 1/3 of a gallon. The space station has an internal pressurized volume equal to that of a Boeing 747. More than 50 computers control the systems on the space station. Now let's look at its size and mass. Its solar array length is 239 feet, across both longitudinally aligned arrays, or 73 meters. They provide 75 to 90 kilowatts of power. However, this thing weighs 925,335 pounds, or 419,725 kilograms. And I always thought it was light. So the ISS actually took over 1,000 hours of spacewalking to assemble. Its cost was approaching $200 billion, and it required multiple space flights to complete. However, a specific number meant it took 136 different space flights involving 7 different types of space vehicles to get all the components into space. And it's also the third brightest object in the sky, behind only the moon and Venus. It's the third brightest object in the sky and can be seen easily by the naked eye. And it is in low Earth orbit, aka a height of about 250 miles. The ISS apogee altitude, aka orbiting height, is 408 kilometers, or about 250 miles. And it takes about 4 hours from launch for a spaceship to reach the ISS. 20 countries have sent people to the ISS. ISS research focuses on improving our ability to live in space. So what do astronauts do on the ISS all day? They conduct scientific experiments. They use an instrument called I.S.S to study neutron stars, the densest objects in the universe, even denser than black holes. But most experiments involve learning how to live in space, including growing plants in microgravity, testing the survival rates of various microbes, and studying how time and space affects DNA. They are also conducting experiments currently using animals only to determine whether normal human reproduction is possible in space. Astronauts breathe by splitting water, literally. On board the ISS, water is split by electrolysis into oxygen and hydrogen to create breathable air for the cabin. The oxygen circulates on board and the hydrogen is released into space. Consumed on the ISS are recycled. Yes, the rumors are true. All urine produced by the crew and lab animals on board the ISS is cleaned, filtered, tested, and recycled back into the onboard water supply for future consumption, and the cycle repeats. However, American and Russian crew members maintain separate water supplies because they use different substances to control bacteria. While the Americans use iodine, the Russians use silver. The ISS is a litter bug, but re-entry takes care of it. Most garbage and solid waste created aboard the ISS is released into space. However, this space trash burns up automatically on re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. Astronauts have access to lots of entertainment options during downtime, and the ISS contains 52 different computers for different purposes. Some of those are to provide crew members with internet access for entertainment and communicating with the folks back home. ISS inhabitants eat while floating in the air, actually. Those aboard the space station eat canned and rehydrated foods for their 3 meals daily, while floating around instead of sitting. Mealtime takes longer than would on Earth because they have to be eaten slowly, one food item at a time, to ensure none gets loose and goes floating around. Floating food can get into equipment and onboard experiments. Onboard haircuts are especially tricky. The ISS is a floating barbershop. Astronauts use special clippers attached to a vacuum. This is necessary to collect every hair particle so it can't float around and clog air filters. ISS crews actually sleep along the walls. Due to the lack of gravity, crews aboard the ISS can't lie in bed the way we do here on Earth. Instead, they crawl into sleeping bags attached to cabin walls. These bags, or compartments, are just large enough for one person to fit inside. Clothing changes aboard the ISS give new meaning to laundry service. Astronauts don't do laundry. When clothes get dirty, they are burned. New clothing is shipped to the ISS periodically. aboard crewless spacecraft. But sadly, the ISS will come tumbling down in 2031 and will be replaced by some bigger project. In January 2022, NASA announced that it would deorbit the ISS in January 2031 and intentionally crash it into the South Pacific Ocean. I don't want to be on an airplane when that happens, though. Many of the older modules on the ISS are seriously outdated due to technological advancements since they were created. Although the ISS could remain in orbit for much longer than 2031, the entire ship would eventually become useless, one module at a time. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please contact me. There will be some diagrams too. Bye.